The wedding revelation. The morning sun filtered through the stained glass windows of St. Michael's Cathedral, casting rainbow patterns across the marble floor. Victoria Ashworth stood before the ornate mirror in the bridal suite, adjusting her diamond tiara for the third time. Her wedding dress, a masterpiece of French silk and hand-sewn pearls, had cost more than most people earned in a year. Perfect, she murmured to herself, admiring her reflection. Today was supposed to be the culmination of everything she had worked for. Marrying into another wealthy family, securing her position in high society, and maintaining the Ashworth legacy. Victoria had always believed that money married money. It was the natural order of things in her world. When she met James Mitchell at a charity gala 6 months ago, she was initially charmed by his quiet confidence and gentle manner. He was handsome, well-dressed, and moved easily through the crowd of millionaires and socialites. Naturally, she assumed he was one of them. James had never corrected her assumption. When she spoke about exclusive vacation homes and private jets, he listened with interest but rarely contributed details about his own life. When she mentioned her family's wealth, he simply smiled and changed the subject. Victoria took his modesty as a sign of old money, the kind of family that didn't need to flaunt their fortune. It wasn't until 2 weeks before the wedding that Victoria discovered the truth. James worked as a high school teacher. His family lived in a modest neighborhood across town. His father was a retired postal worker, and his mother had spent her career as a nurse at the local hospital. The revelation had shaken Victoria to her core. She had raged at James, accusing him of deception. How could he let her plan this elaborate wedding, invite all of high society, when his family was so ordinary? "They're good people, Victoria," James had said quietly during their heated argument. "They raised me with love and strong values. Isn't that worth more than money?" But Victoria couldn't see past her embarrassment. What would her friends think? What would society say about the Ashworth heiress marrying beneath her station? She had insisted that James's family sit in the back during the ceremony. She didn't want them photographed with the prominent guests. She had even suggested they might be more comfortable watching from the church balcony, where they would be less visible. Now, as Victoria made her final preparations, she felt a mixture of excitement and dread. She loved James. She truly did, but the thought of his simple family mixing with her sophisticated guests made her stomach turn with anxiety. Her maid of honor, Christina, appeared beside her in the mirror. "The ceremony is about to begin," Christina said softly. "Are you ready?" Victoria nodded, though her heart was racing for all the wrong reasons. She had specifically instructed the wedding planner to seat James's family in the very last row, behind everyone else. She hoped they would understand their place and remain quiet throughout the proceedings. The music began, and Victoria made her grand entrance. The cathedral was filled with the city's elite, business tycoons, politicians, celebrities, and old money families. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, and white roses filled every available space, their fragrance mixing with expensive perfumes. As she walked down the aisle, Victoria nodded graciously to her guests, feeling proud of the spectacle she had created. This was the wedding of the year, exactly as she had planned. James stood at the altar in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, looking more handsome than ever. When their eyes met, his face lit up with genuine joy and love. For a moment, Victoria felt a pang of guilt about how she had treated his family, but she pushed the feeling aside. The ceremony proceeded smoothly until the minister reached the part about family blessings. This was when James's parents were supposed to quietly stand and offer a brief prayer from their back row seats. Instead, something extraordinary happened. A distinguished-looking man in an expensive suit stood up from the third row, prime seating reserved for Victoria's most important guests. He had silver hair and kind eyes that reminded Victoria strongly of James. "I am Robert Mitchell," he said in a clear, strong voice that carried throughout the cathedral. "James's grandfather." Victoria's breath caught in her throat. James had never mentioned a grandfather. She watched in confusion as more people began to stand, elegant, well-dressed individuals scattered throughout the congregation. "I am Margaret Mitchell," announced a graceful woman in a stunning navy dress. James's great-aunt. She was sitting in the second row, among Victoria's own relatives. One by one, they continued to identify themselves. James's cousin David, who Victoria now realized was the prominent surgeon she had specifically invited for his social status. James's Aunt Sarah, whom Victoria had known for years as a successful art dealer. His uncle Thomas, the federal judge who had officiated at several high society weddings. Victoria's mind reeled as the pieces fell into place. These weren't strangers who had somehow infiltrated her carefully planned guest list. These were people she had known and respected for years, successful, wealthy, influential members of society. They were James's family. Robert Mitchell stepped into the aisle and walked toward the altar. Victoria recognized him now. He was Robert Mitchell, the philanthropist whose foundation had donated millions to various charities. She had been trying to get an introduction to him for months. "My grandson," Robert said, his voice filled with pride and emotion, "was raised by my son and daughter-in-law, who chose to live simply despite our family's wealth. They wanted James to understand the value of hard work and genuine relationships. They wanted him to be loved for who he was, not for his trust fund." Victoria felt the blood drain from her face. She looked at James, who was watching her with a mixture of sadness and hope. "James could have told you about his inheritance," Robert continued, his voice gentle but firm. "He could have mentioned the family business, the real estate holdings, the investments. But he wanted to know that you loved him, not his bank account." The cathedral was completely silent except for the soft sound of Victoria's heart breaking, not from loss, but from the realization of what she had almost thrown away with her pride and prejudice. She thought about James's parents, sitting humbly in the back row despite their family's wealth and status. They had raised a son who valued character over money, love over luxury. They had taught him to be kind, genuine, and humble, qualities that no amount of money could buy. Victoria looked out at the congregation, seeing James's family with new eyes. These people had watched her treat their beloved son as though he wasn't good enough, and they had said nothing. They had respected his choice to win her love honestly. She turned to James, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I was so wrong about everything." James took her hands gently. "Do you love me, Victoria? The real me?" "Yes," she said, her voice breaking. "I love your kindness, your intelligence, your gentle heart. I love the man you are, not what I thought you should be." As they exchanged vows, Victoria felt something shift inside her. She was still the same person, but her understanding of what truly mattered had changed forever. Love, she realized, wasn't about bank accounts or social status. It was about finding someone who made you want to be better than you were. The reception that followed was more beautiful than Victoria had ever imagined. Not because of the expensive decorations or gourmet food, but because it was filled with genuine joy and love from both families, finally united as one.